Okay, so we have a double Kiddush. This week is my father's yahrzeit, and immediately afterwards, a few days later, is my grandfather's yahrzeit. Both of them were obviously Holocaust survivors, and I wrote a little bit about them there.
What was your grandfather's name, Reb Shlomo?
Avram ben Reb Shaya.
So how come your father's name was?
Shaya, Arya ben Reb Avram, and Avram ben Reb Shaya. Oh, how did it change? It's a very interesting story. The Shaya, the Zayda Shaya, was Nifter b'Tmei Yomov, and the Bel Zaruv told my grandfather to add the name of a Chaya to his name, because a Chaya is a symbol of Aryeh, is the Melech Shabachayas, and that's a symbol of Arichas Yamim. My father, Colonel Racha, lived till 90 years old.
Wow, wow. So the title we're learning today is dedicated to Ilui Nishmosam of Rabbi Shaya Aryeh ben Reb Avram and his father, Reb Avram ben Rabbi Shaya. I had the privilege of meeting Reb Shlomo's father, Zechrono Levrocha, Shetibod L'chaim Toy Maruchim V'Lesholem Reb Shlomo. I had the privilege of meeting Reb Shaya in Reb Shlomo's house once, probably you remember. And I think your father learned in Munkach. Did I have that right?
In Munkach and in Galanta.
Yeah, so I think my father and your father learned together in Munkach.
Yes, I think that was Yaitse, yes. Yes. My father was at 22. Does Rav remember how old, when your father was born exactly, which year?
You know, I don't remember dates, but my father was 2 months short of 90 and he passed away 6.5 years ago. So I think that is more or less the same, more or less the same.
2 years younger, I think, but okay. Yeah, they were there together. The Minchas Elazar was still alive.
My father came to Munkach after the Minchas Elazar passed away. But as a child, he saw the Minchas Elazar twice because Salish is not far from Munkach. And his father took him. He had an uncle in Munkach, and he used to go visit his uncle, and they davened with the Minchas Elazar. So this was a generation of unbelievable strength and resilience and Mesirus Nefesh, the survivors, coming to an alien land, an alien language, and how they were successful to bring up daughters of children, Talmidei Chachamim. It's just amazing, and it's a tremendous Siyata D'Shmaya. And when we say Siyata D'Shmaya, we do not in any way belittle their koyach and their strength and their Mesirus Nefesh. So your father and grandfather should be a Melitza Yosher for you and your family. And the Torah we learn should be Le'ilui Nishmosam. So the topic we will be discussing today is, first of all, important because it's so relevant. And it's a mitzvah we are Mekayim once a month. And it's a mitzvah Chaviva, which the Shulchan Aruch say we should be Mekayim B'Simcha. And that is why we prefer saying Kiddush Levana Meitzoi Shabbos. So once a month, we go out, raising our eyes to the heavens, to the sky, looking for the moon, and we say the bracha. And as we see on our screen, the Gemara says, so this seems to be a very important part of Avodas Hashem. If Chazal say, Ki'ilu mekaber pnei hashchina. So the very first question we deal with, what does Kiddush Levana mean? Are we mekadosh the Levana? Does the Levana have Kiddusha? So why do we call this mitzvah Kiddush Levana? So let's scroll down on our source sheet and check some very fascinating and interesting sources. Chuvas Maharshag. So the Maharshag was Reb Shimon Greenfeld. He was one of the greatest Gedolim in Hungary. Semihai Yeruf. He was in Chus before coming to Semihai. And, you know, everything is Min HaShamayim. On this very same page, we are analyzing Siman Hey, but Siman Zayin, let's just have a brief look at the question in Siman Zayin. Al Dvar She'losoi, Berach Shabbos V'inyan Kli HaNikro Radio. Oh. Going back, when was that? Do we have a date on this tshuva? Well, definitely more than 100 years ago. Kli HaNikro Radio, She'neschadish Be'item Alori, She'shomen Al Yodei Koel, Mekama Me'es Persoas. You could hear voices from hundreds of miles away. Could we turn on the radio, turn off the radio? Well, it's fascinating how the Gedolim dealt with these questions. But let us have a look at the first 2 or 3 lines. It's not our sugya at all, but it's interesting. I know nothing about a radio. I don't know how it works. So how do you expect me to give it tshuva? That is very honest and very important. Because nowadays, sometimes Gedolim write tshuvas and they don't know what they're talking about and they don't know the subject matter. What is the question? How could you write a tshuva without knowing the question? So the Marshag honestly wrote, I don't know what the person does. I don't know what the radio does. So he deals with the question of Mishmiya Koil. He deals with the question of Shemiya Taken Kleishia. He doesn't even deal with the question of electricity, which is really what the question is about. But how would he know? How would he know? So this is just an interesting approach to a modern day question that was presented to one of the Gedolim about the radio. Well, most from families in Eretz Yisrael don't have a radio and they wouldn't bring a radio into their homes. But anyway, this is not our topic. Let's go back to Siman Hey, first column, top of the page. So the Marsham deals with the question, what is Kiddush Levana? And he brings an interesting ha'ara. He deals with Kiddush Chamo. יש לפקפק בדבר קריאת השם. פעם אחת שואל לו בני המופלג, החרף מרדכי, מסווידניק, I know nothing about the Marshal, son מרדכי, על קריאת ברכס הלבונה בשם קידוש לבונה, דמייני קידוש יש בברכה זו, וגמגם הוא לא אמר, דתועס נפל בספורם או בקריאת סבונה, וצורך למה חידוש הלבונה. הרויה לבונה בחידושו. So maybe Kiddush Levana is a mistake, and the ches turned into a kuf. It's very easy to imagine how a ches turns into a kuf, because if the left leg of the ches is stretched a little longer, it actually looks similar to a kuf. Tzorach le'mechidish halavona. Halavona masha halavona mischadish b'kol chaydish. V'cheinu anusach b'berchas halavona shasida le'schadish mechadesh chadoshim. So maybe it should be Kiddush Levana. But then the Marshal writes, Im kidva chochma omar, ki yadua shebein ot chet le'ot kuf bekal lepaltos. Amnam, im kol zeh, kosher be'enek tzas lo medatosu. So in Shas and the Rambam, we don't find the term Kiddush Levana. Aval b'da'at l'moishu b'misoysav u'beramo, tov chovov kwa metzinu kama pomem aloshon shel Kiddush. Al Bechas Alavana. Koshaloi med the Torah Seiferu. Sheshum echad men ha'machabre mizmanahu ad ato lo ye'iru b'toras kazu. And I think the Marshal is right. We need to be very careful when we say Tos. It's in the B'is Yosef, the Arka Moshe, and Ramah. It isn't the Tos. It's not a mistake. So why do we say Kiddush Levana? Let's scroll down. See some additional sources dealing with the very same question. So, Masechet Seifrim is a fascinating source. Fascinating. And according to Masechet Seifrim, the nusach of the brocha, the siyum of brochas borchat Hashem, mekadesh yisrael v'rosh hachadoshim. It's not our nusach. It's not the nusach we find in Gemara. in Rambam and in Shulchan Aruch, Baruch Atu Hashem Mechadesh Chadoshim. But maybe the term Kiddush Levana is based on maybe the Nusach of Masechet Sefer. And this is fascinating. But none of the poskim can say, this is the bracha we say. Both Gerses have a source in Medrash Rabbah, last week's Parsha. בזמן שישראל מקדשים את החודש. יש מן הרבנן אומרים בורך מקדש חדשים, ויש מן אומרים בורך מקדש חדשים. So both Nuschaot have a source in Medrash Rabbah. So in my sefer I wrote, the mitzvah of Kiddush Levana is a zecher to the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh. In days of yore, based on where Mekadosh is a Chodesh al pi Re'iyah. And Kiddush HaChodesh is definitely defined as Kiddush HaChodesh. Mekadosh Yisrael v'Rosh HaChadoshim. Because the months are Kodesh, because when we're Mekadosh the Chodesh, we determine when the Yomim HaKadoshim were for, the Yomim Tovim. So Kiddush HaChodesh is definitely defined as Kiddush HaChodesh, and my feeling is Kiddush Levana is a zecher to Kiddush HaChodesh. And that is why we say Kiddush Levana. An additional source, we move down to the next Medrash Rabbah. And this is a fascinating mashal. HaChodesh is Elochem, Mashal HaMelech Shekiddush Isha. Mashal HaMelech Shekiddush Isha. Here we are. Because of Lamatona Me'etes, the king gave his Kala a small gift, a ring, a necklace. Kivin Shabula Lakha, because of Lamatonas Rabbis. And when he married her, that's when she really got the heavy stuff. Kach, Poem is a Erusin. Shanema Varastach Lilioitam. V'lo Mosala Melo Alavona Belvad, Shanema Rapoidish Zelochem. Avali Moisa Mashiach. You in Isuyin, Boise Shomoisa Hemes, Hakol, Shenemar, Bahamas Kilim Yaziru, Kezayer, Harokion, and Stike Haravim, Kefayfovim. So, according to this Moshe, the Levana is a gift that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us in the context of Kiddushin, who Ish Mekadesh, Kiddusha Isha, that's Erusin, and that's another reason we say Kiddush Levana. So up to this point, we just dealt interesting sources why this mitzvah is called Kiddush Levana. So the son of the Marshag argued it's a total mistake. It should be Kiddush Levana, and his father definitely explains, no, that's not the right approach. If the Rishonim event that are more right, Kiddush Levana, it's Kiddush Levana, and we explained in various different sources and approaches, yes. Why this mitzvah is defined as Kiddush Levana? So our wives and daughters don't say Kiddush Levana. Why not? So the Magen Avraham deals with this question, and he says, Nashim Pturos, the mitzvah say Shazman Garame. V'afragav the Mekayim kol mitzvah say Kegon Sukkah, mitzvah way Mekayim. Mishahem shegamu the B'gam Levana. And that is the chait of Eitz Hadas, which caused the B'gam in the Levana. And therefore, Meikaradin Noshim Apotu. And even though Nishot Ashkenaz have a minig, they do perform most of the mitzvah seishas mangram with a bracha, but this is an exception. And the minig is women don't say Kiddush Levana. Why are they exempt? Zman grama. Reb Shlomo Kluger, Siman Tov Chavav, and that is the Siman Shulchan Aruch in which we deal with all the halachos of Kiddush Levana. Reb Shlomo Kluger has a fundamental argument. I would not like to dedicate most of the shir to this sugya. I want to move on to a more fundamental part of today's shir, but just will briefly discuss. Reb Shlomo Kluger argues that mitzvah seishas man grom is only mitzvah which In principle, we could perform any time of the day, any time of the year. Tzitzis is mangroma. By the essence of mitzvah, you could wear tzitzis by day and by night. But the pasuk says that it's a ma'aseh, so it's not noyeg by night. Tefillin is mangroma because it's not noyeg in Shabbos Yom Tov. There's no reason we can't put on tefillin Shabbos and Yom Tov. But that is mitzvah satayra. Weekdays, yes. Shabbos, no. Tzitzis, day, yes. Night, no. But some mitzvahs, bearing in mind the essence of the mitzvah, is just impossible to be makayim, only in certain topics. Kiddush Levana is a great example. What is the essence of the mitzvah? Haroya Levana b'chidusha. That means you could only say the bracha kasher Levana mitchadeshet. And that is why you could only say Kiddush Levana from the Moiled till the middle of the month. After 14 days, the Levana is at its prime, it's big as it gets. It's a whole moon, and from there on, it becomes diminished, it becomes smaller. And that is why we can say Kiddush Levana second out of the month. That is not defined according to the Shlomo Kruger's Mangroma. It's not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that this mitzvah you're only mekayim in a certain time. It's just bearing in mind the essence of the mitzvah. It is impossible to be mekayim. Only when you see Levana bichidusho. So the Shlomo Kruger argues this is not defined as a mitzvah, a seishas mangram. So why are nosim poto? So the Shlomo Kruger comes up with a big doichek and he says, Asher b'mamorei boresh chokim. The siyam of the brocha is machadish chadoshim, but the brocha is also about the ma'oros. And many mitzvahs that are totally the ma'oros are zman grama, and therefore no shema poter from this mitzvah, which is somewhat of a derech. So this is a vikuach, an argument in principle between Mogen Avraham and Shlomo Kruger. How do we define mitzvah seisha as mangrama? Is it every mitzvah that is defined by time and dependent on time, regardless of the reason, regardless of the rationale? You could be makayim that mitzvah some days and not the other days. That is mangrama. According to Shlomo Kruger, no. It depends on the reason. Why could you be makayim this mitzvah only in certain days and not in others? I apologize a moment. I must take out my telephone. Let's scroll down, my dear friends. Dr. Lederreich, let's scroll down. So we discussed Reb Shlomo Kruger, down. Reb Shelev Diskin has exactly the same argument regarding Berachos Achamo that we say once in 28 years, when the sun is exactly in the same position as it was, Kishonitlo Hama'oros. Reb Shelev Diskin says, Nerelish Noshim Chayavos, V'lo Yavis Mangrama, Keberachos Alavona, the Eino Raklafi Shaloi Nimtzo Rak Be'isai, Mashenken Balavona, Achechet Tzia Chodesh, Afshi B'milui, Makol Mokamei Mevacha, Betoli Bisman. But if Shlomo Kruger would say, no, you're wrong. Kiddush Levana is exactly like Berachos Achamo, because you could only say the bracha when you roya Levana bechidusha. And if the Levana is not bechidusha, second half of the month, that's not Zman Grama. But the Reb Shelev Diskin argues, after all, you see the moon. Well, you always see the sun, but you can't say the bracha only when it's Chana B'Tkufasa. Why would that be different than Levana? Source number 3, Surah Evan, regarding Bikurim. Noshim Chayavos B'Bikurim. but it's only min Chanukah ve'elach. Ad Chanukah maybe v'yelik koira. So once again, Turei even argues, it is only because that's when the earth and the trees bear new fruit. And that's when the fruit are best. And that is not defined as man grama. Similar argument. So in nuances, one could be machalek between Bikurim, Kiddush Levana, Berachos Achama, but the fundamental approach of all these achronim is the same. When a mitzvah is relevant only sometimes and not others, it depends why. That is the approach of Turei Even, Reb Shlomo Kruger, Reb Shirei Diskin. The Magen Avraham disagrees with all of that, and the Magen Avraham says, any mitzvah that is relevant sometimes and not the others, regardless of why, regardless of the reasoning, would always be defined as a mitzvah sasei as man grama. We move down. If it's okay with you, my dear friends, we scroll down. So Divrei Yechezkel.
I have a little present for you, if the Rav would like.
Yes. What is that?
That's the Hadeva, the Machlekes Zalman, the Chazon Ish, if you want to discuss it.
Wow. Yeah, that is what I want to focus on. Wow. You know, this is the info age. Heichal HaTalmud b'Tel Aviv, Tov Shin Tes Zayin. Goes back almost 70 years. Ba'arichas HaRav Biberfeld.
Who was he?
I don't know. But Heichal HaTalmud was a very famous yeshiva in Tel Aviv. I think it's closed. I don't think they functioned for a long time. So let's see the content. HaToichin. Let's scroll down a bit. What is the Toichin? Fascinating. Rav Unterman. Wow. Mitzvah Sasei Shazman Grama. Wow. Okay. So before checking what we have in this periodical, let me share with you a Hakira in which I dealt with at great length. There are many Birchas HaRoya, and most of them are in Brochas Perek Tes. And the Perek is Perek HaRoya. Last week I was in Switzerland. I was away. One of my dear Hasidim, dear friends said, take a vacation, take a week off in Switzerland, and it was amazing. I did more work in that week last week than I would do in a month in Eretz Yisrael. Shalos and Nefesh. Not being busy with people. I worked on Shalos Chuvas Minchas Osher Chelik Daled. I made a lot of progress. I wrote some amazing chuvas. So Baruch Hashem. So last week I made the Bracha Oisa Masa Bereshis a few times, going up in a cable car to 3,000 meter mountains, majestic views. So I said Oisa Masa Bereshis. A month and a half ago I was in Gibraltar and I said the Bracha Oisa Yama Godel, when the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean come together. Roy Chaveru Lachas says, Shechiyanu, Aroya Malchi Yisrael says, Shecholak Mekvoida Liyareyav. So many brachas are Birchas HaRoya. Ilonis Malabravim, Chodesh Nisan, Borach Shaloi Chisar Ba'olamoi Davor. So many brachas are Birchas HaRoya. How do we define Kiddush Levana? Is it like all the other Birchas HaRoya? If you see the Levana, you need to say a bracha. If you don't see the Levana, you don't say a bracha. Or is it different? And my interpretation, my understanding of Kiddush Levana is seeing the Levana enables you to make a bracha. Doesn't obligate you to make a bracha. The bracha is a chiyuv. Every Yid needs to say once a month, the bracha Mechadesh Chadoshim. You can't say the bracha unless you see the Levana. So another Birchas HaRoya, seeing whatever you see is Machayev. Kiddush Levana seeing is Ma'afsher. In all the other Birchas HaRoya, seeing, whatever you see obligates you to say a bracha. Kiddush Levana, seeing the moon, enables you to say a bracha. The obligation is totally not dependent on seeing. It's upon you. And one of the reasons I have this feeling is all the Birchas Haroya are in Perek Tes Mesechet Brachos. Besides Kiddush Levana, that's in Sanhedrin Daf Mem Beis. It's not in Perek Haroya. However, in Yerushalmi, it is a Perek Haroya, just like we see on our screen right now. Together with all the other Birchas Haroya, Harayas Levana B'Chidush, Oyim Baruch Mechadish Chadashim. Would this be a Mechloikes Bavli in Yerushalmi? Not necessarily. I think that the fact that in Bavli it's not in Perek Haroya is far more significant than the fact that in Yerushalmi it is in Perek Haroya. The fact that it is in Perek Haroya doesn't prove much, because after all, it's Haroya Esalavana B'Chidush. But the fact that in Bavli it is not in Perek Haroya, but rather in Sanhedrin, that is significant. Do you remember any other Birchas Haroya in which seeing enables, but the chiyuv is upon you? You got to see. You need to do everything you can to see in order to say the bracha. Could anybody come up with an answer? Not long ago, we were Isaac in this sugya. Haroya ner Chanukah. Says a bracha. So that's a Birchas Haroya, but it's not in brachos. It's in Shabbos Chavala. So I think these two brachos have something in common: Kiddush Levana and Haroya ner Chanukah. If you don't like ner Chanukah, you have a chiyuv to see. And you need to go out of your way. Look for a ner Chanukah, because you need to say the bracha. And you can't say it unless you see. So these are two Birchas Haroya that are not to be found in Perek Haroya Mesechet Brachos. Haroya ner Chanukah is in Shabbos. Kiddush Levana is in Sanhedrin. And the way I feel, these two brachos have something in common. Let's go over to the Noida Yehuda. The Noida Yehuda is before the Shnois Chaim. Noida Yehuda. Okay. So the Noida Yehuda deals with an interesting situation. From beginning of Adar till Purim night, there was no Levana. It was cloudy. In middle of Kriyas Megillah, a boy storms into shul and he says, "There's a Levana." What are we supposed to do? Should we just finish the Megillah and hope that the Levana will patiently and kindly wait for us till we finish the Megillah? Maybe she won't wait. Or would we apologize to the Megillah and to Haman and say, "Please, we apologize, but we have an appointment with the Levana, and the Levana might go away, and you're not going anywhere." Surprisingly, the view of the Paskins, we stop in the middle of the Megillah. We walk out, say Kiddush Levana, then come back in and finish the Megillah. Would that include dancing Toiva Ma'orei Shaboro Elokeinu? No. Every sensible person understands. It's only the bracha. Not even Shalom Aleichem Aleichem Shalom. Not even Kashem Shani Roikid. Only the bracha. But it's a fascinating psak. And two Gedolim disagree with the Noida Yehuda. We move down to Sefer Yehoshua. So let me give you a little background. Who was the Sefer Yehoshua? He chose an interesting name for his Sefer, competing with Yeshua ben Nun. The only other Sefer Yehoshua we know is Sefer Yehoshua ben Nun. Sefer Yehoshua is Yeshua Heschel Ba'abad. He was the uncle of the Minchas Chinuch. He was a close friend of Rabbi Kiva and the Mesidus, and he corresponds a lot with these two Gedolim. This Sefer is very rarely quoted, And I love this sefer. I quote him a lot in my sforim and in my shiurim. He was a real gadol. His nephew was Reuven Tranapo. And then the Chavaselis is showing for 100 years, the Rabbanim of Tranapo were the Babad family. From uncle to nephew, from nephew to Einikel. So the Sefer Yeshua disagrees with the Noda B'Yehuda, and he has a very fundamental argument. We could see as tshuva. But usually in these shurim, I don't have time to actually read the text together with you. I'm just briefly, I trust you learned and you will learn the texts. But the Sefer Yeshua has a fundamental argument, and he says, as long as you didn't see the Levana, you have no chiyuv. So mahechet teisa, to stop in the middle of a mitzvah, that you're mechuyev, and be makayim in mitzvah that you're not mechuyev. But Shlomo, are we together?
Yes.
Do you hear me and see me?
Yes, we do perfectly.
Okay.
We're very interested in the story.
Okay. So the Sefer Yeshua argues, mitzvahs Megillah is a mitzvah chiyuvis, and you're in the middle of the mitzvah. Meichet teisa, to stop in the middle of a mitzvah which you are mechuyev, and move over to mitzvah, you don't have any chiyuv as long as you didn't see the Levana. Shnois Chaim is Reb Shlomo Kluger. Reb Shlomo Kluger is amazing. I think he wrote more than any other Achron. He was so prolific, unbelievable. So there's a very wonderful person living in Eretz Yisrael, and his name is Reb Shabsha Lipschitz. I know him for many, many years. His mission that he took upon himself is to publish this form of Reb Shlomo Kluger. In the Hebrew University, Beit Sfarim Alomi, there are tons of ksavim. So he has a sefer named Chochmas HaTorah, Derech Drush, on Chamisha Chumash Torah. 500-page volume on every Seder. I think up to now they published about 35 Sforim. 500 pages, even more on every Seder. It's amazing how much Shlomo Kluger wrote. So one of his Shuvas Sforim is Shnois Chaim. And in Shnois Chaim, he comes up with the same argument Sefer Yeshua has. You're not mechuyev Kiddush Levana unless you see the Levana. And he writes, this child was actually a lochal amaisa, Tov Kuf Tzaddik Aleph in broad. Same story as the Noda B'Yehuda. And he paskins, finish the Megillah. Because as long as you didn't see the Levana, you have no chiyuv. And in my understanding, what would the Noda B'Yehuda answer to these Gedolim? He wasn't given the opportunity because he was 2 generations before Reb Shlomo Kluger, and he was 30 years older than Rabbi Yeshua Eshel Ba'abad. He wasn't around when the Sefer Yeshua came out. It is clear to me that Noda B'Yehuda would say you have a total mistake. A person is mechuyev in Kiddush Levana every day, every month. You need to see the Levana to fulfill your duty. But Riyas Levana just enables you to say the bracha. It's not the mechayev. The chiyuv is upon you. You got to look for the Levana in order to say the bracha. Now let's look at the Ne'eman, at that publication. And actually this question, the one that writes a mama argues, he spoke to the Chazon Ish and Rabbi Zalman, and they had a disagreement. So he's dealing about the question of Mr. Sheshes Mangrama. My Mr. Sheshes Mangrama Shaykh. הרי בכלל אין מצווה לצייסר לחוי ולבורך. רק הם יוצאים ורואים חיובים לבורך. כמו בשאר הברכות הנהנן. This is totally confusing. And I think the London that wrote this mama didn't understand the Gedolim he spoke to. It has nothing to do with Berchas HaNehenen. Kiddush Levana is not Berchas HaNehenen. It definitely is Berchas HaShlach. So he's quoting Rabbi Zalman arguing, as long as you don't see the Levana, you have no chiyuv at all. like Birchas and Ein Mitzvah Levorach Shehakal U'Baruch Achroin Erakim B'Ritzoyin Ein Lechol. Well, that is what he quotes from Rebbe Zalman. To the best of my recollection, he quotes the Chazon Ish as well. Did you notice where? Because I haven't. Oh, here we are. Kasha Shalti Esmor and Chazon Ish. Im Kiddush Levana Birchas and Ahen and Olo. Omeri Bevadei Ein Zedoy Min HaHaRav V'Ave Mitzvah Gemura. Ve'Ein Tzorech Lehevi Raya Merashi. Rak Etzem HaGemura. Kol HaMavror Chodesh Ki L'Kibur Pnei Shchina. So the Chazon Ish argues the mere fact that Chazal exalt this mitzvah and say Kilu Kibur Pnei Shchina proves it's not like Birchas Hanahan. It's a mitzvah gemura. So the way I understand it, 100 years before the Chazon Ish and Rabbi Zalman, that is the same plukta between Sefer Yoshua and Rav Shlomo Kluger on one hand, Noida B'Yehuda on the other. And I think the Chazon Ish is right, and therefore the Noida B'Yehuda is right. Kiddush Levana is not similar. It is similar to Noya Ner Chanukah. It's not similar to all the other Birchas HaRav. Let's look for Reb Chaim Volozhin. One of the sources I quoted. Let's go down, down, down.
Not able to find it, Rebbe. I'm sorry.
You're not able to find it? Let's scroll down. I think it's on our sheet. I think I saw it. Just scroll down, down, down. I think I saw it a few moments ago. If not, I'll just share.
Which Marmuk was Rob looking for? This is
Reb Chaim Volozhin.
We saw it. It's here, yeah.
Down, down. We just had this nice Chaim. We go down.
This is the Summa issue.
Okay, here we are. Chuvas Vanogas.
Yeah, keep on going. Keep on going, Pesach. There we go, the end of it.
Okay. So the Moshe Sternbuch quotes this. Ubeksav yad metalmidei HaGrach Volozhin. Muva, Sherabam, V'bal Shagasavya, Nischavnu L'Dobarecho. Shema'alosan HaRoya Lavona V'Chidush V'Vorach Mashme, the Teichev V'Ra'oisoi Mischayv L'Vorach, Kamo Kol Birchas Hariyah. V'yafla Mesechet Soifim Shema'voracham Rak Hashem Isbasem, Olav Lehimonam L'Roisa Adaz, Shem Roa Nischayv Miyad, Filo B'Yochad, V'Vorach Teichev, V'Dvareim Chidish. V'lo Mitzvah Sido V'Zeh V'Mavor B'Poiskim. So this is a fascinating argument. In all the other Birchas HaRoya, you're supposed to say the bracha as you see. As you see. HaRoya Horem, you can't say the bracha second time you see. First time you see, you say the bracha. When you see lightning, you're supposed to say the bracha. Well, you could say it every time you see a different lightning, but not when you see the same. So, I don't know where the Moshe Sternbuch picked up this Ksav Yad. I don't know where it is. I don't think it's in Keser Rosh. Maybe it is. But it's quoted that the Chaim Volozhin and Shagasari said, if you want to say Kiddush Levana Matzah Shabbos, then you need to look down like a chosed. Don't look up at the sky. Because once you see the Levana, you're mechuyev to say Kiddush Levana. That definitely is not minhag ha'olam. And I think, according to our understanding, it's not right. This ha'orah is not correct. If Birchas HaLevana would be like any other Birchas HaRoya, they would be right. You need to say it first time you see. And if you didn't say it, you can't say it later. HaRoya Chaver Lachas Lo Shimon says a Shechayonu. But if you spend 10 hours with him, you can't say the Shechayonu then. But according to our interpretation in Kiddush Levana, no. The Chiyuv is not dependent on seeing the Levana. Seeing the Levana just enables you to say the bracha. But the Chiyuv is upon you. Therefore, there's no difference whatsoever, whether it's the first time or the 10th time. And that is miyashav minhag ha'olam. And that is why I think that no kpeda. even though you see the Levana. We never heard of such a chumrah. Don't look at the Levana, because if you see the Levana, you need to say. So in the paragraph before, Moshe Sternbach quotes the bells of וכן לויס הרב הקודש הבאנו לא כך מבלז שנוהג להמתנת של עוון גדול למועד עשירי לחודש ומעלה, which is also a strange minute we never heard. To the contrary, Tzrizim Megdim on the mitzvahs. Trumas Adesh and Am Ramon Simatov Chavav deal with the question, do we wait for Matzah Shabbos?
We're not hearing the Rav properly. We're not quite a Rav. We're not hearing you properly. Maybe.
Do you hear me now?
It's perfect.
I hear it perfect. You moved away from the mic.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, so the Moshe Sternbach in the previous paragraph quotes Rabbanan Belzer, "Shenoag lahamtenat shel avona gedola ma'od asiri b'chodesh v'mala," which is also a strange minhag unheard of. The Tumas Adeshan and the Ramah discuss the question: should we wait for Matzah Shabbos, but maybe Tzrizim Madim on the mitzvahs? But no Pesach says you need to have a big, beautiful moon. It's about Levana B'chidusha. It's not Birchas and Hanan. Birchas and Hanan, we have Shlema, Shivas Aminim. A big moon is better than a small moon. This is Birchas HaShevach, Al Chidusha Shel HaLevana. So ma pitom. So Belzerov was a Ish Kodesh, but in halacha this has no source whatsoever. So these are two minhagim that are not accepted, not minhag olam, and we understand why. So let's see some other sources. Let's see some other.
The pshat in the Belzerov is that he liked a nice levana. That's the pshat.
Yeah, a big levana, a nice, impressive levana.
We didn't hit the mitzvah. We didn't hit the mitzvah.
Chibas mitzvah. But it's strange because once again, if this would be Berchas Ananin, like that author writes in the name of Rabbi Zalman, then it would make sense, the Belzerov's minhag. In Berchas Ananin, we prefer saying the bracha on a davar choshuv. A big kikar lechem is better than a small one. A shleim is better than a prusa. Chaviv comes before Einay Chaviv. But this is Berchas HaShevach al Chidush HaLavona. It's all about Chidush HaLavona. So it's unheard of that we should wait till we have a big, beautiful Levana. So, the Belzerov was the Ish Kodesh at Tzadik Nizgav, but this is a minhag which is totally unheard of, and we find it in no Pesach whatsoever.
There was a question here earlier. Let's say it would come out to be able to Mekadosh in the middle of the week, and we wait till Motzei Shabbos. What happens if you have a weather forecast, which today is reasonably accurate? It says that it's going to be cloudy. Does that come into
you say middle of the week? That's the essence of the Tumas Adeshan's Shuvah, which the Ramah quotes. He says, winter, you don't wait for Shabbos. Winter, you say first opportunity. They didn't have a weather forecast, but if it's winter, it might be cloudy, don't wait. Only summer, or when you have a weather forecast, you wait for Motzei Shabbos. But if there's any doubt that you might lose the mitzvah, you don't wait for Motzei Shabbos. And that is a psak halacha. It's quoted in the Ramah, Siman Tov Chavav. Okay, so I think this is a fascinating thing. So let me share with you a very brief thought. And we quoted before the Medrash, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us a gift, the Levana, and that is a gift for the Erusim, for the Kiddushin. So the Medrash says we have the moon, and the only Jews have the lunar year. The Goyim count the sun year, not the moon year. The sun is huge, and the moon is relatively small. So why would we get the moon and they get the sun? Minchas Osha Sichas I wrote. It's a saying, sounds better in Lashon Kodesh than in English. B'Yiddishkeit, b'Yahadus, lo chashuv kama ta gadol, chashuv kama ta gadel. Doesn't really matter how big you are. What matters is, do you grow? The sun is huge, but it didn't grow 1 millimeter since he was born, since Sheshis Yemei Bereshis. 6,000 years he is standing in the same place. That's not the Gadlus. The moon is reduced to nothing every month, and he always comes back. So the moon symbolizes growth. So many times I come to a Mesiba, a Simcha, and people sing, Ashrei mi shogadol b'Torah, and that's a mistake, and I'm always annoyed by that mistake. Chazal don't say Ashrei mi shogadol b'Torah. They say Ashrei mi shogadel b'Torah. Not gadol, gadel. There's no vav in that Mama Chazal. So Yiddishkeit is about struggle. Yiddishkeit is about growth. That is why we have the moon. They have the sun because they're huge and we're small. Yes, they are huge in numbers, we're small. But we know what growth is. We know what struggle is. And we know what an effort to come closer to a Kiddush Levana and to grow from day to day. That is the moon. And that's why we have the moon and let them have the sun. But just a thought to think about when we learn about Kiddush Levana. Kol Tov, my dear friends, we should share the service. Reb Shlomo.
Yes, sir. Yes, quite.
Father, your great father should be Militzia. You and your family should always know good health and the service. We should always share.
Amen. 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 Thank you very much.